today we're going to talk about the Ohio government and how it is similar to the federal government. To start off with, there's the Ohio government starts with the Constitution. We have a Constitution in Ohio that is built off the same principles as the United States national government, and it follows the principles of popular sovereignty, which is, again, the people rule by vote, and limited government. That means that the government is limited by what the people allow it to do. The government only has the powers that the people give it. Okay? Ohio's Constitution was developed in 1851, and just like the United States government, we have a preamble and 18 articles to that Constitution. Now, Ohio's Constitution is a little bit different, where we don't add articles or we don't add amendments. We just change the articles as we develop. As you can see, or we'll see, the United States Constitution is very similar to the United States national government, where there's going to be a legislative branch, which is the General Assembly for Ohio, and Congress for the national government. The executive branch, which is the president for the national government. In Ohio, that's our governor. And then the judicial branch that has a Supreme Court, just like the national government. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Ohio executive branch, which the role of the executive branch is to enforce laws. In the national government, that's the president. But for the Ohio branch, it's the governor. The three requirements to be a governor in the state of Ohio is you must be between 25 and 30 years of age as a minimum. Each state is different. That's why you have that fluctuation here between 25 and 30. You must be a U.S. citizen, and you must live in the state in which you represent. Each governor is elected to a 4-year term, and the lieutenant governor fills the vacancy in case of death. The lieutenant governor is like the vice president with the national government. When we start talking about things that the governor can and can't do, the governor can hire and fire assistants that he hires, call out the National Guard. I feel that's an important power, because it's even more of a power than the president, where the president can send troops for 90 days. The governor is very similar, where he can send in the National Guard. He doesn't have to ask for approval from the federal government to do so. Supervise the executive branch, so he looks over all of the rest of the branch, such as the police officers, the National Guard. And then he prepares a state budget. Things that the governor of Ohio cannot do. He cannot remove elected officials. He can remove officials that he has hired, but not officials that have been elected by the people. He can make appointments, cannot make appointments without supervision. Just like the United States president, he has to get supervision from the General Assembly, such as the same as the national government, where the president has to get his permission from the Senate. And he cannot appoint or remove any head of any agency. Again, it goes back to he can only hire and fire the assistants in which he has chosen. Now we're going to talk about the powers that the governor of Ohio has. When we've talked about the executive powers that he has, such as being able to call out the National Guard, hire his own assistants, look over the executive branch, and develop a budget. But he also has powers within the legislative and judicial branches. For the legislative branch, he has the power of message power, which says that he can suggest legislation to be put into a bill. So he can suggest laws. Now, the Senate still has to pass that law, but he's allowed to step up and suggest what they should pass and what bill should be looked at. The second is power to call special sessions. this kind of goes along with the message power, where if he wants a bill passed, he could bring Senate into a special session and make them vote, make them meet and decide to vote on the bill or not. And then we have veto power. Again, if there's a bill that the Senate has made and has come through to the governor's desk and he doesn't like it, he can veto that bill and essentially end that bill unless they get 2/3 vote to override him. And the nice thing about local government is the governor gets a chance to have a line item veto. This is different than what the president has. With a line item veto, the president has a chance to read the bill, decide what he likes and doesn't like in it, and can scratch out parts that he doesn't like, therefore crossing out the putting a line through what he doesn't like and vetoing that part of the bill. So then that way, if he likes 90% of the bill, but he doesn't like one or two things that have been added, he can just cross those off and that bill can still be passed. That's not the case with the President of the United States. He has to either pass the whole bill or not pass the whole bill. Then when it comes to judicial power, the governor has the power to pardon. That is to forgive a person of his crime. In a case of someone has done something wrong, like say back in the 70s when people fled the United States and went to Canada so they wouldn't be drafted into the Vietnam War, the President of the United States at that point in time, Jimmy Carter, I believe, pardoned those who had fled so they could come back to the United States. So the governor has the same powers. He can pardon. The next power he has in the judicial branch is to commute. That is to lessen the crime. Many times this comes up with the death penalty. People who are put on death row normally go to the governor and ask for a commute of sentence to lessen the penalty, give life in prison compared to the death penalty. And then we have a reprieve, which is to shorten the punishment, or make the punishment not as long. I'm thinking of a standpoint where someone is given 10 years in jail and they're asking for 8 or they're asking for 7 instead. So the governor has the power to pardon, commute, and reprieve.